8,000 is a perfectly arbitrary number, yet no other number looms larger for mountain climbers. 14 mountain peaks stand taller than 8,000 meters, 247 feet. There could have been many more of these 8,000ers if the French Commission that established the length of the meter in 1793 had made it just a bit shorter. There would be hardly any if they had made the meter longer. The decision to make a meter equivalent to 1/10,000th of the distance between the equator and the North Pole left the world with 14 8,000 peaks. All of them are found in either the Karakoram or Himalayan mountain ranges of Central Asia. 14 is a number that pushes climbers to the point of obsession. It's big enough that only the most ambitious consider climbing all of them, but small enough that doing so over a lifetime still seems possible. Even in the United States, a country where most people shun metric measurements, climbers dream of ascending the 8,000ers. The 26,247 footers hardly has the same ring. However you measure them, the world's tallest mountains are treacherous. They have towering blocks of ice, seracs, that can crush climbers in seconds. They are prone to tremendous avalanches of rock and snow that obliterate entire expeditions. And they are home to spider webs of ice crevices that swallow humans whole. Even during the summer, average daytime temperatures are frigid, and hurricane-force winds are common. Then, of course, there is the lack of oxygen. At 5,000 meters 16,400 feet, the atmosphere contains about half as much oxygen as at sea level. By 6,000 meters 19,685 feet, the air is so thin that full acclimatization is no longer possible. No matter how fit, climbers begin to slowly suffocate. By 7,000 meters 22,966 feet, survival times plummet and lucid thought becomes difficult. By 8,000 meters, the so-called death zone, even the strongest climbers can survive for a few days. At best, the three most dangerous of the 8,000ers, Annapurna, K2, and Nanga Parbat, claim the life of about one climber for every four who reach the top. The fatality rate for Annapurna, the most dangerous mountain in the world, is over 30%. Bottled oxygen and guided climbs have made Mount Everest much safer than it was decades ago. But the world's tallest mountain still takes lives regularly. All this risk is for what, exactly? Reinhold Messner, the first person to climb all 14 of the 8,000ers, pointed to something he calls overview to explain the allure. It is not the mountain but the view from the peak that suggests increased awareness. He writes in the book Mountains from Space, "The person who stands on top of one comes back down with a new sense of the world." Messner risked everything for fleeting views from the top of the world, ascending many of the 8,000ers solo and without the aid of bottled oxygen. It took him 16 years, 1970 to 1986, to climb them all. Only 31 other people give or take a few because the records of some climbers are considered controversial have done it since. The International Mountaineering and Climbing Federation (UIA) recognizes 8,000ers as the 14 mountains that are more than 8,000 meters 26,247 feet in height above sea level, and are considered to be sufficiently independent of neighboring peaks. There is no precise definition of the criteria used to assess independence, and since 2012, the UIA has been involved in a process to consider whether the list should be expanded to 20 mountains. All 8,000ers are located in the Himalayan and Karakoram mountain ranges in Asia, and their summits are in the death zone. From 1950 to 1964, all 14 8,000ers were summited in the summer. The first was Annapurna 1 in 1950, and the last was Shishapangma in 1964. And from 1980 to 2021, all 14 were summited in the winter, the first being Mount Everest in 1980, and the last being K2 in 2021. On a variety of statistical techniques, the deadliest 8,000er is Annapurna 1 death, climber, or climber support, for every 3 summiters, followed by K2 and Nanga Parbat 1 death for every 4 to 5 summiters, and then Dhaulagiri and Kanchenjunga 1 for every 6 to 7 summiters. The first person to summit all 14 8,000ers was the Italian climber Reinhold Messner in 1986, who did not use any supplementary oxygen. In 2010, Spaniard Dedern Pasaban became the first woman to summit all 14 8,000ers, but with the aid of supplementary oxygen. In 2011, Austrian Gerlin Kaltenbrunner became the first woman to summit all 14 8,000ers without the aid of supplementary oxygen. In 2013, South Korean Kim Chang-ho climbed all 14 8,000ers in 7 years and 310 days, without the aid of supplementary oxygen. In 2019, British Nepalese climber Nirmal Purja climbed all 14 8,000ers in 6 months and 6 days with supplementary oxygen. In July 2022, Sonu Sherpa became the first person to summit all 14 8,000ers twice, which he did over the period 2006 to 2022. Issues with false summits, for example Chowu, Annapurna 1 Nandulagiri, or separated dual summits, for example Shishapangma and Manaslu, have led to disputed claims of ascents. In 2022, after several years of research, a team of experts reported that they could only confirm evidence that 3 climbers, Edvi Esters, Vika Gustafsson, and Nirmal Purja, had actually stood on the true summit of all 14 8,000ers. The first recorded attempt on an 8,000er was when Albert F. Mummery, Jeffrey Hastings and J. Norman Colley tried to climb Pakistan's Nanga Parbat in 1895. The attempt failed when Mummery and Tagurkhas, Raghuveer Thapa and Goman Singh were killed by an avalanche. The first recorded successful ascent of an 8,000er was by the French Maurice Herzog and Louis Lachenal, who reached the summit of Annapurna on the 3rd of June 1950 during the 1950 French Annapurna expedition. Due to its location in Tibet, Shishapangma was the last 8,000er to be ascended, which was completed by a Chinese team led by Zhu Jing in 1960, for Tibet's mountains were closed by China to foreigners until 1978. The first winter ascent of an 8,000er was by a Polish team led by Andrzej Zawada on Mount Everest, with Leszek Sichy and Krzysztof Wilicki reaching the summit. On the 17th of February 1980, all Polish teams would complete 9 of the first 14 winter ascents of 8,000ers. The final 8,000er to be climbed in winter was K2, whose summit was ascended by a 10-person Nepalese team on the 16th of January 2021. Only 2 climbers have completed more than one first ascent of an 8,000er. Herman Buell Nanga Parbat and Broad Peak Kankurt Diemberger Broad Peak Kandulagiri. Dual summit of Nanga Parbat in 1953 is notable as being the only solo first ascent of one of the 8,000ers. The Polish climber Jerzy Kukuczka is noted for creating over 10 new routes on various 8,000er mountains. Italian climber Simone Moro made the first winter ascent of 8,000er mountains Shishapangma, Makalu, Gasherbrum II, and Nanga Parbat, while 3 Polish climbers have each made 3 first winter ascents of an 8,000er, Michburbika Chowu, Manaslu, and Broad Peak. Krzysztof Wilicki Everest, Kanchenjunga, and Lotz and Jerzy Kukuczka Dolagiri 1, Kanchenjunga, and Annapurna 1. On the 16th of October 1986, Italian Reinhold Messner became the first person to climb all 14 8,000ers. In 1987, Polish climber Jerzy Kukuczka became the second person to accomplish this feat. Messner summited each of the 14 peaks without the aid of bottled oxygen, a feat that was only repeated by the Swiss Erhard Lorten 9 years later. In 1995, Kukuczka had used supplementary oxygen while summiting Everest, and on no other 8,000er. On the 17th of May 2010, Spanish climber Adriana Pasaban became the first woman to summit all 14 8,000ers. In August 2011, Austrian climber Gerlin Kautenbrunner became the first woman to climb the 14 8,000ers without the use of supplementary oxygen. The first couple and team to summit all 14 8,000ers were the Italians Nives Mero, who was the second woman to accomplish this feat without supplementary oxygen, and her husband Romano Binea on the 11th of May 2017. The couple climbed alpine style without the use of supplementary oxygen or other support. Nepali mountain guide Kami Rita holds the record for the most ascents of an 8,000er peak at 38, a feat he achieved on the 23rd of May 2023 by summiting Everest for the 28th time, which was also a record for the most summits of Everest by a climber. On the 20th of May 2013, South Korean climber Kim Chang-ho set a new speed record of climbing all 14 8,000ers without the use of supplementary oxygen in 7 years and 310 days. On the 29th of October 2019, the British Nepali climber Nirmal Purja set a speed record for climbing all 14 8,000ers with the use of supplementary oxygen in 6 months and 6 days. In July 2022, Sonu Sherpa became the first person to summit all 14 8,000ers twice. He started with Chowu in 2006, and completed the double by summiting Gasherbrum 2 in July 2022. On the 27th of July 2023, Kristen Haril and Tenjin Lama Sherpuk completed the ascent of the true geographic summits of all of the 14 8,000ers in 92 days, setting a new world speed record for the completion of the 8,000ers. The extreme altitude and the fact that the summits of all 8,000ers lie in the death zone mean that climber mortality, or death rate, is particularly high. Two metrics are quoted to establish a death rate, i.e., broad and narrow, that are used to rank the 8,000ers in order of deadliest. Note that they are also the world's overall deadliest mountains. Broad death rate. The first metric is the ratio of successful climbers summiting to total deaths on the mountain over a given period. The Guinness Book of World Records uses this metric to name Annapurna, one as the deadliest 8,000er and the world's deadliest mountain, with roughly one person dying for every 3 people who successfully summit, i.e., a ratio of circa 30%. Using consistent data from 1950 to 2012, mountaineering statistician Eberhard Jergalski see table below used this metric to show Annapurna is the deadliest mountain 32%, followed by K to 26%, Nanga Parbat 20%, Dhaulagiri 15%, and Kanchenjunga 14%. Other statistical sources, including Mountaineering, used a mix of data periods from 1900 to spring 2021 that had similar results, showing Annapurna still being the deadliest mountain 27%, followed by K to 23%, Nanga Parbat 21%, Kanchenjunga 15%, and Dhaulagiri 13%. Cho'u as the safest at 5%. Narrow death rate. The drawback of the first metric is that it includes the deaths of any support climbers or climbing Sherpas that went above base camp in assisting the climb, therefore, rather than being the probability that a climber will die attempting to summit an 8,000er. It is more akin to the total human cost in getting a climber to the summit. In the Himalayan database HDB tables, the climber or member death rate is the ratio of deaths above base camp of all climbers who were hoping to summit and who went above base camp, calculated for 1950 to 2009, and is closer to a true probability of death. See table below. The data is only for the Nepalese Himalaya and therefore does not include K2 or Nanga Parbat. HDB estimates that the probability of death for a climber who is attempting the summit of an 8,000er is still highest for Annapurna 4%, followed by Kanchenjunga 3%, and Dhaulagiri 3%. The safest mountain is still Cho'u at 0.6%. The summary tables from the HDB report for all mountains above 80 meters also implied that the death rate of climbers for the period 1990 to 2009, for example modern expeditions, is roughly half that of the combined 1950 to 2009 period, i.e., climbing is becoming safer for the climbers attempting the summit. Mount Everest 848 meters, 29,028 feet, is the highest mountain on Earth and the most sought-after mountaineering experience among the 8,000ers. Situated in the Mahalungur Himal, a sub-range of the Himalayas, on the border of Nepal and Tibet, Mount Everest is part of the coveted 7 summits. There are 2 main routes on Mount Everest: the southern route via Everest Base Camp in Nepal, and the northern route via China, Tibet. The southern route takes climbers along the southeast ridge of Mount Everest and is a lot more popular than the northern approach. There are a number of reasons why the southern approach is more popular, but the 2 main reasons are: 1. The southern approach is considered a little easier, less technical, although one needs to contend with the dangerous Khumbu icefall. 2. Political stability. In Nepal versus China, Tibet makes it easier to logistically plan and execute an expedition. The Everest climbing season is in the spring months of April and May. Summiting this mountain is an expensive experience. Many adventurers are put off by the high price to climb Everest. K28, 611 meters, 28,251 feet, also known as Mount Godwin Austen or Chogori, is the second highest mountain in the world. The mountain is located on the China-Pakistan border and is the highest mountain in both these countries, and in the Karakoram range. There are a number of routes for climbers to approach K2, although most take the Abruzzi Spur route. Climbing steep snow and ice slopes, mountaineers with need advanced technical climbing skills. Located on the opposite side of K2 is the North Ridge route. Climbers rarely take this route due to difficult access that involves crossing the Shaksgam River. It is also more technically difficult than the Abruzzi with its long, steep rock ridge climb. The main K2 climbing season is between July and August. Ardito Dicio led the first successful K2 expedition in 1954. It was called the Italian Karakoram expedition. If you're planning to climb K2 from the Pakistan side, you will need to apply for the Islamabad's Ministry of Tourism permission. From there, mountaineers can expect to pay around USD $7,200, 20,000 United States dollars, depending on the size of the team and the route that you're taking. K2 is dangerously unpredictable. It's considered to be the ultimate 8,000 or challenger, and it's recommended that climbers be in top shape as well as being experienced in all forms of rock, ice, and snow climbing. A K2 expedition will take about 2 months to complete. Lying between Nepal and Sikkim, you will find what was once assumed to be the highest mountain in the world, Kanchenjunga, 586 meters, 169 feet. This 8,000er is part of the Himalayas range and is the highest mountain in India. Known as the 5 treasures of the Great Snow, Kanchenjunga is considered to be sacred by the people of Sikkim, with some expeditions stopping a few feet from the top to respect the ancient beliefs of the people of Sikkim. Kanchenjunga doesn't offer an easy route for climbers, and the threat of avalanches is high. While the Indian government banned expeditions to Kanchenjunga using the northeastern route from Sikkim in 2000, mountaineers can utilize the 3 other routes that are located in Nepal. Autumn and spring are the best times to climb Kanchenjunga. Kanchenjunga was first climbed in May 1955 by Joe Brown and George Band. There have been around 300 successful ascents of Kanchenjunga. Unfortunately, Kanchenjunga has claimed the lives of at least 45 people and has an overall fatality rate of 15%. Depending on your choice of operator, climbing style, you can expect to pay from 9,500 United States dollars to 20,000 United States dollars for a commercial Kanchenjunga expedition due to the less developed tourism infrastructure, basic facilities, and slightly rougher trails. Climbers should be in the highest physical shape with plenty of high-altitude climbing under their belt. It usually takes mountaineers 40 to 60 days to complete a Kanchenjunga expedition. Lhotse 8, 516 meters, 940 feet, is the 4th highest mountain in the world and one of the most popular 8,000er peaks, as it is connected to its big brother through the South Col. Lhotse has 3 summits: Lhotse Main 8, 516 meters, Lhotse Shar 8,383 meters, and Lhotse East 8, 413, and is best known for its dramatic south face. It's been dubbed as the steepest face of horizontal distance in the world and is difficult to climb. Lhotse's main summit lies on the border between Tibet of China and the Khumbu region in Nepal. Most climbers use the primary route through Everest South Col. However, there are a number of different approaches to the mountain. Both spring and autumn are considered the best times for an expedition up Lhotse. The main summit of Lhotse was first climbed by Ernst Rice and Fritz Luxinger in 1956. Lhotse has a 67% success rate with over 600 summits under its belts. Around 15 people have died climbing Lhotse. Mountaineers can expect to pay between 20,000 United States dollars and 22,000 United States dollars to climb Lhotse. Self-supported climbs can cost considerably less. A high degree of fitness is required, with previous high-altitude climbing being a must. On average, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to complete a Lhotse expedition. Makalu 8, 485 meters, 838 feet, is the 5th highest mountain in the world and a prominent member of the 8,000ers. Climbing Makalu is both a challenging and serious effort that is rife with difficulties. Makalu's iconic Pyramid Peak is located on the border between Nepal and Tibet, with 2 prominent ridges providing the main climbing routes: Northwestern Ridge and the Southeastern Ridge. At the base of the summit, you will find the natural wonder of the Barun Valley that is ample in elevated waterfalls, flora and fauna, and different ethnic communities. The Northwestern Ridge route is used by experienced mountaineers to approach the top of the peak. It involves a sustained steep slope that offers magnificent views. The more commercial route is the Southeast Ridge. This route allows for more moderate technical exposure with some fixed rope requirements. Like the other 8,000er peaks, the best time to climb Makalu is in spring and autumn. The first ascent was completed in 1955 by Jean Cousy and Lionel Terray. To date, There have been a total of at least 390 successful summits at Makalu. Of those summits, there have been a total of 40 fatalities. Costs to climb Makalu lie between $13,500 to $30,000. Self-supported climbs costs considerably less. This expedition is only suitable for experienced mountaineers who have had previous 8,000 meters climbing experience. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to complete a Makalu expedition. Cho-Oyu is known as the 6th highest mountain in the world and is arguably the easiest 8,000er to climb. For mountaineers looking for an Everest mock exam, Cho-Oyu provides excellent practice. By the end of the climb, you will have nailed using oxygen and refine your mountaineer skills. The climbing route is relatively straightforward and is almost hazard-free, with only a few sections requiring technical attention. It is, however, very cold. Lying in the heart of the Tibetan and Nepalese Himalayas, climbers will get a wonderful view of the hundreds of peaks that are scattered throughout the Himalayas. The most popular route is the West Ridge. The fact that Cho-Oyu has been dubbed the easiest 8,000er to complete shouldn't be taken lightly. Taking the West Ridge route requires little technical skills, but it is dotted with glacier crevices, snow and loose scree. The second most popular route is the Southeast Ridge through the Nampa La Pass. It's best for more experienced alpine climbers due to the increased difficulty. As with most Himalayan expeditions, spring and autumn are the best times of year to climb. The first summit was completed by Joseph Jokeler, Pasong Dawa Lama and Herbert Tichy, October 1954. Cho-Oyu has over 3,200 successful summits. The death rate is 1% and around 50 fatalities have been recorded to date. This is the least amongst the 8,000ers. Most commercial expeditions will cost you $30,000. However, budget expeditions can be done on as little as $10,000. Cho-Oyu is suitable for intermediate climbers that are looking for an introduction to the 8,000ers. Having experience with alpine climbs is beneficial. You can expect to complete the Cho-Oyu expedition in 50 days. The snowy attraction of Dhaulagiri 167 meters, 795 feet, is undeniable, being the 7th highest mountain in the world and the highest that's wholly located in Nepal. It's one of the lesser climbed 8,000er peaks due to its remoteness. Dhaulagiri is famous, or perhaps infamous, for its accessibility and high-risk avalanches. Even the most experienced climbers find it challenging to reach the top. There are a number of climbing routes on Dhaulagiri 1, but the most popular route is the Northeast Ridge due to the route's avoidance of the steepest part of the icefall. Climbers will enjoy this route for its straightforward layout, but it does have very real and dangerous challenges that shouldn't be taken lightly. Kurt Diemberger, May Shelbert, E. Forer, Nawan Dorje, and Naima Dorje complete the first summit in May 1960. Over 360 people have successfully summited Dhaulagiri 1. At least 58 people have died trying to climb Dhaulagiri 1, which gives a death-to-summit rate of 16%. Commercial expeditions on Dhaulagiri cost roughly $15,000. Technical climbing skills and previous experience on 8,000ers is a must. It should typically take experienced climbers 4 to 6 weeks to complete a Dhaulagiri 1 expedition. Manaslu 8, 163 meters, 781 feet, or the Mountain of the Spirit, is the 8th highest mountain in the world. The mountain is situated in the Gorkha district of Nepal, about 64 kilometers east of another famous 8,000er, Annapurna. Manaslu is regarded as one of the more difficult 8,000ers to summit, with approximately 650 successful summits and around 80 deaths. In September 2014, Polish mountaineer Andrzej Bargiel set a record time from base camp to summit of 14 hours, 5 minutes, and also record time for base peak base of 21 hours 14 minutes. Toshio Imanishi and Gyaltsen Norbu were the first people to make the first ascent of Manaslu. In 1956, over 650 people have successfully summited Manaslu. Approximately 81 people have died trying to climb Manaslu. Commercial expeditions on Manaslu cost roughly $20,000. Technical climbing skills and previous experience on 8,000ers is a must. It typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to complete a Manaslu expedition. Nanga Parbat is the 9th highest mountain in the world and is known for its immense and dramatic peak that rises above the western anchor of the Himalayas, earning the nickname Killer Mountain. Mountaineers can expect a notoriously difficult climb that comes with well-earned bragging rights. Located in the Immerse district of Gilgit-Baltistan, Nanga Parbat is one of only 2 peaks that rank in the top 20 list of both highest mountains in the world and the most prominent peaks in the world. It has 3 major faces: Diamir, Rakio, and Rupal. Rupal is the highest mountain face in the world and is astoundingly difficult to climb. You can start your summit from either of these 3 major faces. If you're up for a winter challenge, the most common route is the Skell route. It's often considered an easier and safer climb during the winter months. Most climbers take the Immerse district route in spring or autumn, as it is the easiest route to reach the peak. This west-facing route is also considered to be the safest option for climbers. The route is better known as the Kinshofar route and was first successfully climbed in 1962. Mountaineers can expect some snow, icy pastures, and rocky terrain along this route. June to September is deemed to be the normal time to climb the mountain. Outside this period, snow can grow to be problematic when mixed with the high altitude. The first ascent was completed by Hermann Buell in 1953. There have been at least 340 successful ascents. Approximately 70 people have died trying to climb Nanga Parbat, making it the 3rd most dangerous 8,000er to climb. Climbers can expect a commercial Nanga Parbat expedition to cost them between $14,500 United States dollars and $22,000 United States dollars. Similar to K2 in difficulty, you will need to be in top physical form and have had previous high-altitude climbing experience. It typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to complete a Nanga Parbat expedition. Annapurna 1 is the 10th highest mountain in the world and one of the most dangerous 8,000er to climb. Despite its difficulty, Annapurna 1 was in fact the first 8,000er peak to be climbed. The entire Annapurna Massif is found in north-central Nepal Himalayas. The Massif has 6 prominent peaks, with Annapurna 1 standing tall at 891 meters. There are 2 primary routes to Annapurna 1, the south face and the north face. The south face starts in Pakar and goes along the famous pilgrimage of Muktinath via Jomson. Along the way, you will get off at Feti and embark on the Moti Kola to get to the south face. This route requires advanced technical climbing skills. To reach the original north face route, you will have to travel a little further to Leaf Village. From Leaf Village, the route will take you along the Hum Kola and the Mirishti Kola, up to where you will begin ascending the north face. This route is considered to be extremely avalanche-prone, but is better for a diminished technical climb, as avalanches are a huge concern for mountaineers. Climbing Annapurna 1 is most optimal during October. This is when the monsoon season ends and the heavy rains have cleared. An expedition led by Maurice Herzog and Louis Lachenal saw the first successful summit in 1950. There have been at least 200 successful ascents. Approximately 70 people have died trying to climb Annapurna, making it the most dangerous 8,000er to climb. A commercial expedition to Annapurna 1 will cost in the region of $17,500 United States dollars per person. Annapurna is full of risk and only experienced climbers with 8,000 meters experience should attempt it. It typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to complete an Annapurna 1 expedition. Gasherbrum 1, or the Hidden Peak, sits at 880 meters above sea level and is the 11th highest 8,000er. The challenging technical difficulties start at a lower level of ascent, which makes up a steep snow and ice climb. All routes eventually lead to the Japanese allure, which is located on top of the northwest face. In the winter, this route can be deep with snow and avalanche risk is high due to its rocky and icy peaks. Gasherbrum 1 is considered to be the least popular of the 8,000er peaks. The trick to climbing Gasherbrum 1 lies in the timing. You should aim to plan your expedition between June and August. Summits will usually take place in late July, early August. The first summit was completed in July 1958 by Pete Schoening, Andy Kaufman and their team. There have been around 350 successful summits of Gasherbrum 1. Approximately 30 people have died trying to climb Gasherbrum 1. Depending on whether you're coming from Nepal or Pakistan, you can expect to pay in the range of $14,500 United States dollars and $24,500 United States dollars for a commercial Gasherbrum 1 expedition. Only the most experienced climbers who have high levels of fitness should attempt this summit. It typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to complete an Gasherbrum 1 expedition. Broad Peak is the 12th highest peak in the world. It is situated on the border of Pakistan and China and is about 8 kilometers away from K2. Broad Peak itself has two peaks, with Broad Peak Central 8,051 meters, 414 feet, breaching the 8,000 mark. It's named Broad Peak for the immense bulk of its peak. While being a pretty straightforward climb as far as the 8,000er go, it can sometimes be littered with surprise avalanches and rocky sections. Many climbers use Broad Peak as an acclimating climb in preparation for K2. The most commonly climbed route is the West Ridge route. There is also the Carsolio route, the Long Summit Ridge Traverse, and the Southwest Face. The West Ridge route is best for its established base camp and noted success rates. Along this route, you will be required to do some fixed rope climbing. As you approach Camp 2, you will get to the steepest section of the whole route, where the ice and rocky terrain is demanding. Like K2, it's best to climb Broad Peak in the spring and autumn months. An Austrian team led by Markus Schmuck was the first to summit Broad Peak in 1957. A total of 406 summits have been completed to date. 34 people have died on Broad Peak. You can expect a commercial Broad Peak expedition to cost you between $11,500 United States dollars, $15,150 United States dollars excluding flights and trekking equipment. While you won't need to be as experienced to climb Broad Peak as you would with K2, you will need to have had high-altitude climbing experience. It typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to complete a Broad Peak expedition. Gasherbrum 2, 8,035 meters, 362 feet, is the 13th highest mountain in the world and is the 3rd highest peak. In the Gasherbrum Massif, part of the Karakoram mountain range, Gasherbrum 2 is found on the Pakistan and China border. Gasherbrum 2 is perhaps the most affordable 8,000er out there. The spectacular terrains and more affordable price points make the expedition even more appealing. Southwest Ridge is the most popular route due to the clearly defined spur. While the slopes may not be as steep as Broad Peak or as technical as Gasherbrum 1 or K2, Gasherbrum should not be underestimated. Just like Gasherbrum 1, you should try and plan your expedition in line with the optimal weather conditions. The best months to climb is from June to September. The first summit of Gasherbrum 2 was completed in 1956 by Fritz Moravec, Joseph Larch, and Hans Willen Part. There have been around 1,000 successful summits of Gasherbrum 2. 23 people have died trying to climb Gasherbrum 2. Mountaineers can look to pay around $20,000 United States dollars for a commercial Gasherbrum 2 expedition. Only the most experienced climbers who have high levels of fitness should attempt this summit. It typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to complete an Gasherbrum 2 expedition. Shishapangma, 8,027 meters, 335 feet, is 14th highest mountain in the world and the lowest of the 8,000er peaks. Shishapangma is considered to be one of the more approachable 8,000ers to climb thanks to its direct route. But it should not be underestimated. There is significant avalanche risk on Shishapangma. The most popular ascent passage is the northern route, which ascends the northwest face and northeast ridge and face. The steeper southwest face is more technically demanding. There are 2 summits, one that is slightly lower at 13 meters, 26,289 feet, and the true summit, which is 2 hours further climbing at 8,027 meters, 335 feet. Some climbers claim to have summited when, in fact, they have only reached the lower central west summit. The best time to climb Shishapangma is pre-monsoon April, May. In 1964, the first summit of Shishapangma was completed by Zhu Jing's expedition. There have been around 350 successful summits of Shishapangma. 31 people have died trying to climb Shishapangma. Mountaineers can look to pay around $20,000 United States dollars for a commercial Shishapangma expedition. Most of the route is snow-covered with some steep slopes. Having experience with an ice axe, crampons, and climbing ropes is essential. It typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to complete an Shishapangma expedition.